everyone. Today this is the third day today. We're going to start reading chapter 2 of Bill Clinton, My Life. So my name's Trung, this is Tien, and this is my mum. And we are going to start reading.
Go.
I was born on my grandfather's birthday, a couple of weeks early, weighing in at a respectable 6 pounds 8 ounces on a 21-inch frame. Mother and I came home to her parents' house on Hervey Street in Hope, where I would spend the next 4 years. That old house seemed massive and mysterious to me, and it still holds deep memories today. The people of Hope raised the funds to restore it and fill it with old pictures, memorabilia, and period furniture. They call it the Clinton birthplace. It certainly is the place I associate with awakening to life, so the smells of country food, to buttermilk churns, ice cream makers, washboards, and clotheslines, to my Dick and Jane readers, my first toys, including a simple length of chain I prized above them all, to strangers' voices over a party line telephone, to my first friends and the work my grandparents did.
After a year or so,
my
mother decided she needs to go back to
New Orleans for Charity Hospital, where she had done part of her nursing training, to learn to be a nurse anesthesiast. In the old days, doctors had administered their own anesthetics, so there was a demand for this relatively new work, which would bring more prestige to her and more money for us. But it must have been hard on her, leaving me. On the other hand, New Orleans was an amazing place after the war, full of young people, Dixieland music, and over-the-top haunts like the club My Oh My, where men in drag danced and sang as lovely ladies. I guess it wasn't a bad place for a beautiful
young widow.
widow to move beyond her loss.
I got to visit Mother twice when my grandmother took me on the train to the New
Orleans.
Yeah.
I was only 3, but I remember 2 things clearly. First, we stayed just across Canal Street from the French Quarter in the Jung Hotel, on one of the higher floors.
Mm-hmm.
It was the first building more than 2 stories high I had ever been in.
I have been
in the first real city I had ever seen. I can remember the awe I felt looking out over all the city lights at night. I don't recall what Mother and I did in New Orleans, but I will never forget what happened one of the times. I got on the train to leave. As we pulled away from the station, Mother knelt by the side of the railroad tracks and cried as she waved goodbye. I could see her there still crying on her knees as if it was yesterday.
It would look like, see when we go to the train together, took the train, go to the city, and you remember that day? 2 years ago, 10, maybe 5, you maybe say 8 years. You have to figure that. You forget it.
For more than 50 years from that trip, New Orleans has always had a special fascination for me. I love its music, food, people, and spirits. When I was 15, my family took a vacation to New Orleans and the Gulf Coast, and I got near All Hurt, the great trumpeter in his own club. At first, they wouldn't let me in because I was underage. As Mother and I were about to walk away, the doorman told us that Hurt was sitting in his car, reading just around the corner, and that only he would let me in. I found him, in his barney no less, tapped on the window, and made my case. He got out, took Mother and me into the club, and put us at a table near the front. He and his group played a great set. It was my first live jazz experience. All Hurt died while I was president.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote his wife and told her the story, expressing my gratitude for a big man's long-ago kindness to a boy.
When I was in high school?
Well, when I was in high school, I played the tenor saxophone solo on a big piece about New Orleans called Crescent City Suite. I always thought I did a better job on it because I played it with memories of my first sight of the city. When I was 21, I, I rode scholarship in New Orleans.
One.
I won a Rhodes Scholarship in New Orleans. I think I did well in the interview in part because I felt at home there. When I was a young law professor, Hillary and I had a couple of great
You know
trips to...
Hillary? Hillary hit one. Didn't that why?
When I was a young law professor, Hillary and I had a couple of great trips to New Orleans for conventions. Staying at a quaint little hotel in the French Quarter of the Cornstalk. When I was the governor of Arkansas, we played in the Sugar Bowl there, losing to Alabama in one of the legendary Bear Bryant's last great victories. At least he was born and grew up in Arkansas. When I ran for president, the people of New Orleans twice gave me overwhelming victory margins, assuring Louisiana's electoral votes were our side. Now I've seen the world's great cities, but New Orleans will always be special. For coffee and bonnets in the morning cool on the Mississippi, for the music of Aaron and Shamel Neville, the old guys at Preservation Hall, and the memory of Al Hurt, for jogging through the French Quarter in the early morning, for amazing meals at a host of terrific restaurants with John Barracks, Sheriff Harry Lee, and my other pals, and most of all, for the memories of my mother. They are the magic nets that keep me down to the Mississippi to New Orleans.
Can you read it?
Read this one.
Can you read it?
While mother was in New Orleans, I was in the care of my grandparents.
Yes.
They were incredibly conscientious about me. They loved me very much, sadly, much better than they were able to love each other.
Yes.
Or, in my grandmother's case, to love my mother, of course I was blissfully unaware of all this at the time. I just knew that I was loved.
Yes.
Later, when I became interested in children growing up in hard circumstances.
Yeah, and
became
interested
in children growing up in hard circumstances and learned something of child development from Hillary's work at the Yale
child
Studies Center. I came to realize how fortunate I'd been for all their own
demands to have trong tiếng.
For all their own demons. My grandparents and my mother always made me feel.
Trong tiếng. Did it well.
Always made.
Yes. Can you finish this?
I was always made me feel I was the most important person in the world to them.
That's right.
Most children will make it if they have just one person who makes them feel that way. I had 3.
Oh, lucky. Reading like it. Okay, not to keep going. Trong thời. I like to upside down voice. Go.
My grandmother, Edith Grisham Casey, stood over 5 feet tall and weighed about 180 pounds.
Yeah.
My mom was bright, intense, and aggressive, and had obviously been pretty once. She had a great laugh, but she was also full of anger and disappointment and obsessions she only dimly understood. She took it all out in raging tirades against my grandfather and my mother, both before and after I was born, though I was shielded from most of them. She had been a good student and ambitious, so after high school she took a correspondence and course in nursing from the Chicago School of Nursing. By the time I was a toddler, she was a private nurse for a man not far from our house on Hervey Street. I can still remember running down a sidewalk to meet her when she came home from work.
I will finish and finish, yeah.
Yeah. My mom's main goals for me
Were
were that I eat a lot, learn a lot, and always be neat and clean. We ate in the kitchen at the table next to the window.
Simply.
My high chair faced the window, and my mom tacked playing cards up on the wooden window frame at mealtimes so I could learn to count. She also stuffed me at every meal because conventional wisdom at the time was that a fat baby was a healthy one as long as he bathed every day, at least once a day. She read to me from Dick and Jane books until I could read them myself, and from word book encyclopedia volumes, which in those days were sold door to door by salesmen, and were often the only books besides the Bible in working people's houses. These early instructions probably explain why I now read a lot, love card games, battle my weight, and never forget to wash my hands and brush my teeth.
Okay, Tinta, Nathan. Tinta.
I adored my grandfather, the first male influence in my life, and felt pride that I was born on his birthday. James Eldridge Cassidy was a slight man, about 5'8", but in those years still strong and handsome. I always thought he resembled the actor Randolph Scott.
Yeah, good job. Didn't finish or Chung finish? Chung finish? Yeah.
When my grandparents moved from Bodcore, which had a population of about 100, to the metropolis Hope, Papa worked for an ice house, delivering ice on a horse-drawn wagon. In those days, refrigerators really were ice blocks, cooled by chunks of ice whose size varied according to the size of the appliance. Though he weighed about 150 pounds, my grandfather carried ice blocks that weighed up to 100 pounds or more, using a pair of hooks to slide them onto his back, which is protected by a large leather flap.
You can finish it paragraph. You can continue. You can leave it one.
My grandfather was an incredibly kind and generous man. During the Depression, when nobody had any money, he would invite boys to ride the ice truck with him just to get them off the street. They earned 25 cents a day. In 1976, when I was in Hope running for Attorney General, I had a talk with one of the boys, Judge John Wilson. He grew up to be a distinguished, successful lawyer, but he still had vivid memories of those days. He told me that at the end of one day, when my grandfather gave him his quarter, he asked if he could have 2 dimes and a nickel so he could feel he had more money. He got them and walked home, jingling the change in his pockets. But he jingled too hard and one of the dimes fell out. He looked for that dime for hours, to no avail. 40 years later, he told me he still never walked by that stretch of sidewalk without trying to spot that dime. It's hard to convey to young people that...
You do one more reading? You think that's enough for today?
Yeah, enough.
Yeah.
You think?
Yeah.
So that enough for today?
Yeah.
So we continue tomorrow. Thank you, Tin. Thank you, Timmy. Very nice story. But did you remember what you just reading? Something?
Yeah, talking about how I was growing up.
How you grow up? Talk more about grandparents. Yes. How they love, how you love. Just like you and their number one today, the way you are. Yeah. Yes. Just you realize it with your grandparents, don't you?
Yes.
Say see you tomorrow.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.